Shreveport City Council work session is now called to order. I'm going to ask Chief Scott Wolverton to give the invocation. Councilman Jenkins, would you lead us again in the pledge of allegiance?
Be delighted to.
Please stand.
May we pray? Father, we come to you now with humble hearts, and we ask that you just be with us as we go through this meeting. We're thankful for being able to assemble together here with our freedoms and conduct the business of the city. I pray for godly wisdom upon our mayor and our CAO and our council, Lord Father, in decisions to move this city forward. Father, we pray now that you would just watch over us, protect us in our city. Pray that you would just guide everything in this meeting to glorify and honor you. We give you all the praise and glory. We ask all these things in the name of Jesus, the name above all names. Amen.
Amen. Okay, if you join me and face the flag, repeat the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Councilman Bradford.
Present.
Councilman Everson.
Here.
Councilman Jenkins.
Present.
Councilman Corbin.
Present.
Councilman Flores.
Present.
Councilwoman Lynch. Here. And Councilman Bowman.
Tomorrow, I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the Administrative Conference and the City Council meeting on Tuesday, August the 8th. At this time, does any council member have any awards, recognitions, or distinguished guests? Mayor Tyler, at this time, I will recognize you and ask that you bring forth some folks that you want to be recognized, please.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman, and to the members of the council. We have some special guests today with us. Mrs. Christine Anderson, and of course, Mayor Walker, who is the mayor of the great city of Bossier City, and some other guests here from NARC will be coming forward today with a small presentation. And of course, Ms. Anderson has worked diligently as the government and community relations for the I-20 Corridor Council. She's also a Southern representative, or the Southern representative on the Council of Representatives for the National Association of Railroad Passengers. I'd like to have her come forward at this time to share briefly an update on the proposed I-20 Corridor long distance passenger rail connection, and she will introduce the other guests.
Very good. Thank you so much, Mayor. Just a real honor to be here, and I appreciate your time, Council. And we're all of us are honored to be here, and I'll share this stage, of course, obviously, with Mayor Walker as well. We're here to represent the I-20 corridor, the proposed I-20 corridor long-distance train. And I'm sure you know through your mayor, and I know Councilman Everson was with us with an MOU, I think, in 2008 in Marshall, Texas. In fact, we're on the I-20 corridor tour. We are working on this to get a connection between Fort Worth and Atlanta, Georgia, through northern Louisiana, which we know when you're talking about passenger rail, it's not just about transportation, which is so very important, but also it's an economic development tool. It's, as we know, great for tourism. It's great to get the burden off of the I-20 corridor right now, because we know it's bumper to bumper many times. So we have been working diligently for about 10 years, but we're very, very, very close working with Amtrak to perhaps pushing this across the goal line so that we will indeed have passenger rail in northern Louisiana. I want to introduce also our guests here that Mayor Tyler was talking about. I'm a member of the National Association for Railroad Passengers, which is a rail advocacy group in Washington, D.C., and we're very happy to have two young women here who are interns who have been traveling all over the United States, coast to coast, on Amtrak to promote the idea of the national network of passenger rail, because we know how important passenger rail is to transportation in America. As I said earlier in Marshall today, the first two letters of Amtrak are the first two letters of America, and that's what Amtrak's all about, is connecting America. So I wanted to say, before I turn this over to Mayor Walker, who of course has been a wonderful advocate for this for many, many years, along with Mayor Tyler, I wanted to bring a gift. We have for you not only T-shirts for Summer by Rail, but also mugs that say the I-20 corridor, which shows you where it goes all the way from Texas to Georgia, all the way through Louisiana. And, of course, we'll be very presumptuous to say I support the I-20 corridor train. But Amtrak has been a wonderful partner on this, continues to be a wonderful partner, and we look forward to when we can introduce these young women. We're having to drive them to Jackson, Mississippi today, but someday we hope that they'll be able to come through northern Louisiana on the I-20 corridor train. Now we're going to be going to Bossier City and Grambling later today before we go to Jackson. We started this morning in Marshall, Texas, my home, and we look forward to continuing our work here with regard to the I-20 corridor. And with that, I want to thank you again for having us here, and I want to turn the floor over to Mayor Walker from Bossier City.
Thank you.
Hope you enjoy your mugs.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina. I don't have anything to bribe you with like Christina does. We really do appreciate this opportunity to help get more visibility. Is a duck in here?
We keep one on hand.
Yeah, it's a duck, all right. I'll have to talk fast because my pass to get him back over the bridge expires at 4 o'clock, so I've got to be brief with it. But seriously, we do appreciate the opportunity to help get more visibility to what we're all trying to do. Try to get not only from Fort Worth, Dallas to Shreveport, Bossier, but we want to get it all the way past Meridian. That's the gap right now from Marshall, Texas to Meridian. But we want to get it all the way to Atlanta because in so doing, we exceed the 750-mile criteria. So once that's done, then the federal government starts kicking in, picking up the annual operations and maintenance costs. We still have to do the initial capital outlay, side rails and that sort of thing, and build a station, that sort of thing. But that'll eliminate the need for annual operations and maintenance expense. So I think after Christina gives y'all the bribe, we're going to slip out and they're going to come visit. We'll need 5 minutes and then head on over to Grambling. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Walker.
And I should mention while Christina gets back up, it is, I don't know how many of you have done it, but it is a really nice drive to Marshall to take the train from Marshall to Dallas to go to, to go west. But it sure would be nice to be able to get dropped off here in Shreveport and just jump on the train right here. But Marshall is a very nice host if you do get the opportunity and you haven't done passenger rail before, it's very convenient and particularly for a short trip to Dallas. It's very easy.
Thank you.
I will add one more thing. Just thank you, Mayor, for reminding me. The beauty of this I-20 corridor long-distance train is, as the mayor had said, and as Mayor Tyler well knows, it's on existing right-of-way, no eminent domain needed. It's the states through which our route traverses do not have to pay an annual subsidy. So it's almost like one of the mayors in Texas says it's a no-brainer. And we're just working diligently with Amtrak so that we can push this across the goal line, and hopefully soon we'll have our what they call the inspection train, which is the step right before we get our train. So I would like to introduce these 2 young ladies. One is Victoria Principato, if you'll stand up, and Caitlin Boyle. And also the chairman of National Association for Railroad Passengers came from Dallas to be with us. This is Peter Lakoti. And Jim Matthews came from Washington, D.C. for 1 day to travel with us on the I-20 corridor. This is Jim Matthews, the president and CEO of the National Association for Railroad Passengers. So again, Mayor, thank you for being so gracious to host us. And as Mayor Walker said, we'll probably slip out so we can let you go on with your meeting. But we really appreciate the opportunity.
Well, thank you all so much for coming by today to make a presentation.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
That sounds like a good internship, by the way.
Councilwoman Lynch, I
I'm
think
not going to
that.
hold you all up, but if I had
I know
some
that.
questions, who's the contact person with the administration? Okay.
Mr. Crawford
I
or
have some
myself, the
questions, but
contact
I'm not
person
gonna
from Ms.
hold them
Anderson.
up.
Okay.
Okay,
Mr.
so
Crawford or
I'll just-
myself, or
Okay.
Tari Grant.
Okay.
Tari's not in here
All
right
right,
now.
thank you. Safe travels.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Be careful. She can meet you in the back.
Thank you all. Okay, bye-bye.
Come on, let's go.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I have one other announcement, if I could do that at this time.
Sure,
And
ma'am.
then if you would want to bring up some of the appointments that
Yes.
we're trying to get confirmed, I
Yes,
appreciate
ma'am.
that. Do we want to do that first and then let me make this announcement? Okay?
Let's do that first.
Let's do that first, okay? To be appointed to the Civil Service Board, we have with us today Pastor David Huey. Will you come to the podium? Pastor Huey, thank you. And I think you have his his resume that we sent. Okay, just give your name.
Good afternoon to the council and to Madam Mayor and all who are present. My name is David Huey. I reside at 2404 Hemsdale Court here in the city of Shreveport, Louisiana. I have been a citizen of Shreveport for a little over 14 years now. Came in 2003 as a Methodist pastor. Since then, I have officially retired after 30 years last July. I currently serve as one of the directors with Griggs Enterprise McDonald's here in Shreveport, and I'm also over the Archway to Opportunities program, where we partner with 5 different colleges and universities throughout America. And for those individuals who work for us who are looking to receive an associate degree, a bachelor's, master's, or doctorate degree, I am in charge of getting them enrolled and keeping them in the program. And also I am in charge of our high school diploma program for those individuals who work for us who have not received their high school diploma. We are able to get that diploma for them through classes, and we take care of all of the expenses.
Mr. Hood, my name is James Flurry. I want to say what an honor it is to have you to serve in this position, because I know it's not a thankless job. But I want to say thank you so much for stepping up and serving the public.
And thank you for being my council person.
Thank you.
That had nothing to do with
This
the
has
school.
and I'm also a Methodist.
He who tooted out his own horn.
He also
Mistake
eats
about
McDonald's.
tooting his horn.
And I eat at McDonald's. Correctly.
If I may, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Let me just say, no kidding aside, that Civil Service Board, in my opinion, is certainly one of the most important and probably difficult boards that we have. It is very contentious, and there are people that are, they're worried about their livelihoods, but then, of course, people that end up in front of that for various disciplinary actions don't end up there by happenstance. So I just say, it needs leadership, and please be convicted and fair there, but be firm, because that's a big issue for our city right now. And just really look forward to breathing some, I'm going to say, conviction and firmness in your decisions there.
Thank you, Councilman Jenkins. I believe with 30 years of pastoring different people and having served on various boards in the various cities that I've stayed in, and currently serving on the board of directors of Goodwill, and having served chair of the Children and Youth Planning Board, I think those years of dealing with people gives me the ability to make a sound, objective decision. And I've had to do that as a pastor, made some decisions that I did not like to make, but for the betterment of the organization, I had to make those decisions.
Mr. Chairman, likewise, and I share the sentiments of Councilman Jenkins in that since we've been on the council, I've been on the council, I mean, that's been one of the boards that has been most challenging, and we've gotten more feedback of some challenges as it relates to decisions and those that come before that body. And having known you for the length of time you've been in Shreveport, I feel confident that you can be objective in your deliberations with those cases. So thank you for coming and thank you for willing to serve.
And thank you, Councilor Bradford. I appreciate that very much, sir.
Okay.
All right, thank you all very much, and thank
I'm
you,
looking down there.
Madam
Oh,
Mayor.
see, thank you for that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Okay, next we will be bringing up Dr. Michelle Wolkenmeer, and I probably didn't pronounce her name correctly, but Wolkenmeer, I believe, Dr. Wolkenmeer. Come right on up, and she is, we are going to appoint her pending confirmation to the Greater Shreveport Human Relations Commission. She's one of those members also that was on the initial board and did not have enough time really to do a whole lot, and has asked for a reappointment. And so we're going to, no, you weren't on the board. You're replacing someone who needed to get off the board. I'm sorry. So at this time, if you'll just introduce yourself.
Okay. My name is Michelle Wolkmeyer. I live at 6319 East Ridge Drive, Shreveport. I've been in Shreveport for 17 years now. I came here as an assistant professor of sociology at Centenary College from North Carolina State University, where I was a graduate student and worked a lot. So I've been teaching for, oh my gosh, over 20 years in some capacity. I'm now a full professor at Centenary. And my areas of expertise have to do, of course, as all sociologists, with social systems. So my hope is that that expertise, in addition to the ability and training that I have to collect qualitative and quantitative data, might be of use to this commission. So I don't know what other kinds of background you would be interested in hearing about, but.
Yeah, I just want to thank you for accepting this position. I know that I believe Felice is the one who's stepping down on this.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I think she offered a lot of expertise, and obviously time isn't an issue for every day. So we appreciate you offering your time, and you bring a lot of expertise to the table as well. I was at Centenary, I think, when you started, but I had already finished my sociology classes, so I didn't have you as a professor, but always have heard a great reputation that you have, and appreciate you bringing those talents to this commission.
Well, thank you for your kind words, and thank you, Mayor Teller, for the opportunity.
And let me just say something else. Dr. Wolkenmeer, actually, we asked her to accept this position because Dr. Felice Williams' term ended in December of last year. However, she did not, she had so many other things that she was doing, so she asked to be replaced. I needed you to know that about this appointment. Okay?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bradford?
Thank you. Doctor, I'm sorry.
Dr.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Are you familiar with this board and how it functions?
I am familiar with the purpose of the board, the actual practical day-to-day functioning. No, I haven't been on it.
Okay.
So I understand what the board is constructed to do, both from reading materials and speaking with specifically Adrian Critcher about some of the purposes. But the protocol of it, no.
Okay, well, it's not necessary at this point. I want to congratulate you for offering yourself for service, but I was, and several of the members for reappointment has been before us over the last several weeks. And one of the things that I've been sort of asking them to look at as a part of the overall mission is to see how you can insert yourself as a catalyst in regards to race relations and forging better communication tolerance within the city. You've been here 17 years.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And I'm sure you have a deep understanding of the city and how we are somewhat clashed in ways, and we need to forge better relationships in those areas. So if you could, sort of add that to the equation in your discussions, I think that would take us a long ways. And in creating the type of city that we all want to have here.
So thinking about the intersection of race and class in,
Sure.
in Shreveport. Is
Okay.
that-
Thank you again for your service.
Thank you all for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
Thank you. We also had for that board for reappointment Dr. Sherry Carey, but she is unable to be here today, but she will be here tomorrow for you to be introduced to. So tomorrow we'll have one more that will come up for introduction. We have two other appointments for the Shreveport Implementation and Redevelopment Authority. Mr. F. Troy Williams is one of the appointees that was designated from the Northwest Louisiana Association of Realtors. And he comes to us with years of experience in that area. So, Mr. Williams, thank you for being here.
Well,
Gentlemen, ladies, I'm F. Troy Williams. I live at 3800 Scenic Drive in Shreveport. I've been in Shreveport for the past 40 years. And I'm a realtor and an appraiser. I've been a realtor for the past, well, I've been involved in real estate for about the last 34 years, so, and appraising for that period of time as well.
thank you for offering yourself service.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions?
Just want to briefly say the same thing just quick before James, but thank you for volunteering to serve. I know this is a committee that has lofty responsibilities, and a big part of that is making sure that y'all can kind of come together to, to identify those tasks that that this organization can focus on specifically to help accomplish what is a very broad goal. So I know it's going to take a little time and discussion, and your expertise will be valuable in that. So thank you for serving in that capacity.
Just want to thank you for your willingness to serve.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Williams. I
You're
appreciate
welcome.
you coming today.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for the appointment, and appreciate your consideration for approval.
Thank you, sir. Okay, next for the same board, the Shreveport Development Authority, is Mrs. Judy Williams.
My name is Judy Williams. I live at 836 Anianta, and Councilman Everson is my council person. I'm in marketing. I have a marketing firm, Williams Creative Group, and I'd like to thank the mayor for this appointment. I believe that the expertise I bring is communications, but the passion that I bring is race relations in Shreveport. And so to the extent that blighted neighborhoods play a role in crime in neighborhoods and safety in neighborhoods, I'm very interested in that.
Chairman.
Yes. Councilman Bradford.
Thank you. And when I saw your name, I was excited.
Thank you.
Because I knew your passion for service, and you have been a very strong advocacy for Shreveport in a lot of areas over the years. And you're familiar with what is expected from this position on this board. It's a new board. It's been in the works for a long time to become active. We tried to, I think since the mayor came, since her tenure, 2.5 years, that she tried to get a working board, but it's been a challenge. So it appears, Mayor, that you're now on your way.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And Judy, I really, really have confidence that you're going to bring a very wealth of experience with Shreveport, because you know Shreveport, to this board, and we anticipate great things coming from this, because it's something that I know Councilman Everson, I mean, once we got familiar with the function through the legislature and how they would expect it to happen, we wanted to mirror some of our cities from the South, but we couldn't get there. But at the same time, there's great opportunity here. So congratulations for coming forward, and best wishes on a great, successful committee.
Thank you, Councilman Bradford.
And I just want to say again, as I have to all the appointments, because this is something that's so important to me, this organization. Like you said, it does have the ability to do something that's really wonderful for our community. But as we look at other communities across Louisiana and other states who've had similar organizations, the most important part is coming together at the beginning to set those goals correctly, to define what you will and will not focus on, and to help get the community behind it. And so having somebody with the ability to communicate across different interests and areas of expertise is going to be integral to that. So really thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Keep up the good work in our community, please.
Thank you.
See you at a live events, and I was welcome to see that.
Thanks.
All right. Is that it?
Thank you for your consideration. Thank you, Mayor Tyler.
Thank you so much, Ms. Williams. Ms. Williams is probably the last appointment to this board, so we can get them together. And she is one of the ones that was chosen from my administration. Councilman Fleury, I can wait to do my comments, but I did have one other announcement, but it's going to deal with one of the items on the agenda. And I don't know if you want me to wait until we get to that point. I can do that.
No. You'd like to do it now, Mayor?
I would.
Let's do it.
Okay. Thank you so much, members of the council. My comment is going to be going to a piece of legislation that we have on the council agenda today regarding the RFP for the G League team, and I wanted to make that announcement on the front end. In order to move the competitive process forward for the Pelicans, the first piece of necessary legislation has been placed on the council agenda. It will allow for the exploration of securing financing for the sports complex. On tomorrow, we will have a presentation that will provide more details to the public about the RFP that was presented to the Pelicans organization. We will also introduce some of the private partners willing to invest in expanded development in our community. The council resolution will not commit any dollars at this time towards the project. It only allows the city to explore financial options available through the sale of future revenue bonds to finance the sports complex. And of course, if Shreveport is awarded the Pelican franchise, other legislation will follow to dedicate funds that will lead to the construction of the complex and private development. Those are the announcements and the presentations I had for today. Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Members of council will move to reports now. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Green? Seeing none, Mr. Green, thank you very much for offering to come forward. Any questions for Mr. Crawford, Mr. Bradford, or Mr. Sweeney? Mr. Sweeney, did you have anything you wanted to? Okay, there's no questions here, so we'll move on. There's no public hearing. Adding legislation to the agenda, public comments, and confirmation of appointments. Mr. Crawford, will there be any legislation to be added tomorrow?
Not that I'm aware of, Mr. Chairman.
We do have some public comments, and I'll ask the vice chair to control that time. Mr. Weiner?
Stepped out with the train people.
He has left the room.
Let it be noted that we called.
Left the station.
Please make record of that, Mr. Clerk, that we did call Mr. Weiner.
Penny Brown. Speaking on zoning. That's a good one to just do a different order.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. We kind of wanted, they asked me to go first for the group. My name is Graham H. Todd. I live at 503 Atkins Avenue here in Shreveport. I'm a retired Lieutenant Colonel, JAG. I've retired out of the base, and I still work out at the base. We moved to Shreveport just a few years ago because we wanted our children to be able to go to Caddo Magnet High and then to go to Centenary. I have a daughter who is a senior at Caddo Magnet and a daughter who is a freshman at Centenary. If I could, I would like to, I'm not quite sure how this thing.
Just put it on there.
hopefully it'll work. What I'd like to focus on for today's remarks is about the zoning request for Don's, what we know as Don's Seafood, that area. There's a request regarding the parking lot area to be rezoned from C1 to C2. And the focus of my remarks today is to focus on really the legality of that. When one looks at the definition of C2, I think it creates a problem versus the definition of C1. If you look at this right here, this is the original plat of the neighborhood, what is known as the John McW Ford subdivision. And so this area up top is near Kings Highway, and those lots were rezoned to, as far as our records can tell, to C1 some time ago. And those are lots numbers 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15 on Kings Highway. What the request is about is actually here on Atkins Avenue, which is lots 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, and 21. And those were also rezoned to C1, we think around 60 years ago. In a short while here, you will hear from the Thurmans, who actually still live in what would be lot 22, and were there when those houses were demolished and can speak to all of that. But what's important to note here is that those are now C1, and C1, if one reads from the definition of C1, it is clear that the definition states it is a neighborhood commercial district intended to accommodate local non-residential uses that predominantly serve the needs of the nearby residential neighborhoods and are similar in character of the surrounding residential neighborhood. I would not dispute that a C1 use that occurred in the last 20, 30, 40 years there probably served the neighborhood. It was a restaurant, and people would come from the area to eat. In fact, my father-in-law, who lives in Arkansas, can recall going there from Arkansas, that the food was that well known. I understand that, and I can respect that. The problem becomes is that the request is to change it to C2. C2 is titled Corridor Commercial Zoning District. The C2 Corridor Commercial Zoning District is intended to accommodate the commercial corridors of the city of Shreveport. The district addresses primarily auto-oriented retail, both individual businesses and retail centers, with the intent of improving the pedestrian environment along the corridor. It says commercial corridor. Atkins Avenue, which is where these lots are, is not a commercial corridor. To approve this to PC2, one would first have to change Atkins Avenue as a commercial corridor. In addition, Highland Avenue, the other corridor where lot 16 is, would have to be rezoned as a commercial corridor. They are not commercial corridors. Atkins Avenue is our neighborhood. That's the beginning of what is commonly known as South Highlands. And my house sits right across the street here on the corner of Atkins and Highland, and would look at the lovely dumpster that they propose to stick at the corner there. In addition to the gas station and the liquor store and all of the traffic and everything else that that request will bring. Regardless of what the requested activity is, the focus is that it's improper to zone it to C2. It is a residential neighborhood. C2 commercial activity cannot take place in a residential neighborhood.
Your time has expired.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
We have Kenny Brown, is that coming up now?
Yes.
State your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
Ms. Brown, there's a red line on the floor there. Do you see it? If you'll stand behind it. See it on the floor anywhere?
A red line?
Yeah.
No, so there's a piece of tape with
A
the
tape?
with the blue line.
Okay, if you'll stand just
Okay.
behind it, we'll get no buzz on the mic.
Okay, sure.
Thank you.
I'm Penny Brown, and my husband and family and I live at 546 Atkins. So we are on the north side of Atkins, south of Kings, and there are 2 houses that separate us from the John McW Ford lots that comprise the parking lot that Mr. Todd spoke of. My husband bought the property in 1995 when he came here with Barksdale Air Force Base. He's since retired from the Air Force, but he's a civil servant at Global Strike Command. I'm an attorney right across the street here with Lon Arian. We have 3 children, 23-year-old who's a physician assistant student at LSU Shreveport, a 17-year-old who's a senior at Caddo Magnet High School, and a 12-year-old who is a 7th grader at Caddo Middle Magnet. Our house is going to turn 100 years old in 2021, and we would like to be there to celebrate in our home, but we kind of feel like we're being squeezed with a lot of commercial activity around us. We've devoted our lives to our house. My husband has killed himself in that house. These old houses, the inside walls are plaster, which is basically concrete, 11-foot ceilings, just huge big mammoths that take all your money and all your time. And we're 22 years into that. And when you have commercial properties kind of coming in on you, it just creates that. I mean, the more commercialism, the bigger the problem. We have Family Dollar behind us. We're constantly in a battle about the trash in the dumpsters. Mr. Todd spoke about the dumpster that would have to be basically in the back corner of that Don Seafood parking lot. This is how Family Dollar's dumpster looks a lot of the time. We have to call the city a bunch about it. There's a Goodwill now, I think, operating on the Don Seafood property. It's always got trash piled up. And I can only imagine if you bring in, at least with Family Dollar, we don't have food that's rotting and being put in there. They don't, that's not an issue. But of course, I think this is enough of an issue. This is from our daughter's bedroom, basically, in the garage apartment, this picture. And it's an ongoing thing. It has been for years. I have special concerns about there being a liquor store in this gas station. I can tell you, I was just on Friday at the Circle K, which is only a couple of blocks down from where the Don Seafood is. There's a gas station there. It was right after lunch, and this guy is out in the parking lot basically trying to get money from people that are captives because they're pumping gas, so they can't even, get away, getting money to go buy beer. He went in and bought a big giant beer. And I can totally envision this liquor store will draw a lot of foot traffic, people, captive trying to pump gas, and people that want money. And I just envision it being a big disaster. I certainly can understand why the Todds don't want to overlook the front of their house with their beautiful front porch overlooking a big dumpster that very likely may have this same kind of trash that we have to deal with from Family Dollar. I mean, Family Dollar, if they can't keep theirs clean and nice, I don't know.
Time has expired.
Thank you. I don't know how it can be any different with another company.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Dr. Paul Wood.
Hello, I'm Dr. Paul Wood. I live at 224 Gulf Ridge Drive, and I'm here today to appeal an MPC ruling on C-7217. It's my understanding that this is under the new UDC guidelines and that I can't appeal MPC decision like we used to be able to, that I have to do this at the city council level. Is that correct? And that's what I'm talking about here.
All zoning matters come to the city council. They did before, but there is no mechanism for appealing in the UDC. However, Mrs. can be opposed to it and speak, and the same as they could before. It's just no formal appeal anymore.
Okay, great. In all due respect to Mr. Sweeney and the MPC, I think they got this one wrong. There are 3 major points. Point number 1 is it's a violation of equal protection by the MPC for this area to me. Point number 2, it's illegal spot zoning. And point number 3, it is contrary to the UDC guidelines, page 4-1, section 5K, subsection 2. And I want to read that. All drive-through lanes, this is relating to Progressive Bank wanting to put a bank on this property and have a drive-through. All drive-through lanes must be located and designated to ensure that they do not adversely affect traffic circulation on adjoining streets. Drive-through lanes on corner lots must not route exiting traffic into adjacent residential neighborhoods. And where I live, there is we have a subdivision. It's called Las Robles. This is a map of the area. This is Ellerby Road area across from the new Kroger's. On the east side of the road, it's all residential here. Here's the property in question. Here's my home, Militello's home. This is RA. Everything surrounding here is RA or RAE. This is the Bluffs, 24 nice homes. Here's Reddick Road, and they have 7 homes back there. They have approved B1, and these businesses here, this is a law office, this is an accountant office, and they have approved B1 here, all with requirement for residential character-looking structures. Here's what the law office looks like, and here's what the accounting office looks like, and here's the bank they want to put in. All these properties, all the residences in the area are Cajun, Acadian style. There's Mr. Metello's property and my home. We're side by side on Gulf Ridge Drive there. That's my point 3. And there's one other thing on point 3. The only reason the bank needs C2 is to have a drive-through. The banks can fit in C1 just fine, but they want this drive-through, which is against UDC regulations. And I think they're doing this because the bank is trying to circumvent the Department of Transportation and Development, because they've told them they can only have one exit on Ellerby Road, similar to the Barksdale Federal Credit Union down here, which has one exit on Ellerby Road. So they're trying to do just what the UDC says they can't do and direct their exiting traffic onto Gulf Ridge Drive, which is the road in front of our homes, and out on Ellerby Road that way. That's why I have the problem with this. Going back to the violation of equal protection, on the P1017 zoning back in May, they allowed B1 at a property here with residential and character structure, just like they have allowed B1 at the accountant office and B1 at the attorney's office. But here,
5 seconds left.
Thank you. Here they're requesting C2, which I feel is totally unacceptable in B1 residential area. Thank you very much. And I'll be here tomorrow. I just wanted to let you know.
Does any councilman have a question?
Well, just for clarification.
Yes, sir.
We had spoken on the phone. This zoning item will only be introduced tomorrow.
Right.
There won't be a final decision made for 2 weeks.
I understand. Can I speak on that?
Well, I have another question.
Okay.
On Gulf Ridge Drive, I'm looking at an aerial photo.
Yes.
There are 2 residential driveways on Gulf Ridge Drive.
Yes.
That's correct.
Yes.
I have a request.
Yes.
And I do need to go out there, and obviously we got a little in between one zoning issue, and you got inserted in the middle, so not all of us were necessarily prepared right this second.
Right.
We were focused on the other zoning.
Right.
issue. But admittedly, what would be helpful to me is if you could send me an email kind of describing your perspective, because I know you pointed out you didn't have to appeal. So you didn't necessarily send, or I don't have anything that kind of lists your rationale.
Okay.
And all 7 of us have email addresses up here. And I think since you seem pretty organized there, maybe just sending us a synopsis of the grounds for your appeal so that I can read through it ahead of time and be up to date on it.
I really appreciate you requesting that. I'm really happy to do that. Thank you very much. And Mr. Corbin, you were asking why I was here today. It's just I wanted to get this on your minds. I will be here tomorrow because I know that's first reading. But if you're not aware of what's going on, then I think you may have trouble understanding what I'm talking about. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Any other questions?
Favors tonight. Thank you.
Beverly? Beverly Thurman? If you would state your name and address for the record, you have 3 minutes, Ms. Thurman.
Beverly Thurman, 524 Atkins. You couldn't get by without a feisty old lady coming up here. I'm next door to the parking lot of Don's, and I was before the council 40 years ago whenever the parking lot was put in. And it was a mistake then, but the mayor, and I talked to the mayor, and he made them put the wall further back to make it better for us on that street. But it was still a mistake to do it because Don's crammed it down their throat. They cleared the land, cleared the houses, and then asked for the parking lot. But don't let one mistake lead to another mistake. I would like all of you, I know you've got big business here and y'all are talking about interstates and things all over, big problems, big decisions. But think about one block, your house on that block, and whether you want a liquor store and a convenience store at the end of that block. And I would like y'all to think about that when you vote, because Atkins Avenue is a proud old street with proud homes in it, and putting it all together, the owners, the investment in Atkins Avenue far exceeds Don's investment in their business. So I would please ask you to consider that. And don't put that, let them do whatever they want to on Kings Highway. That's already business, and I can understand that. But don't let a commercial building come in on Atkins. My husband and I'm 86 and he's 88. We can't be in that house much longer. What if somebody comes in and we don't know it and they buy our house to flatten it and make something? Then it's just a cancer that just grows right on up the street. And you all can stop it right now by not letting them have that zoning. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
You are a little feisty, Ms. Thurman. You are a little feisty. We have Andrew Corbin. Speaking on the same zoning case, state your name and address, please, for the record. 3 minutes.
The red line. I'm Andrew Kirby's the 4th, 330 Marshall Street, Suite 200, Shreveport, Louisiana. I'm here to talk in favor of the zoning. I was asked to speak about the Z2 zoning today. And I was able to speak with some people in the audience that know a little bit more than what I know. I think we're getting confused about Atkins Avenue. We saw a plat. It was platted in 1917. If I do the math, you do it, almost 100 years ago, whenever it was platted. In 1961, the Mirror Steakhouse moved into the Rex Theater, which later became Don Seafood, and then this young lady behind me told you the rest of the story, how the houses were bought down, torn for parking. So it was a restaurant with a parking lot with a big brick fence built around it, facing Kings Highway. So let's get to Kings Highway. Kings Highway is a minor arterial for the city of Shreveport. 27,000 cars a day pass it east and west, according to some numbers I looked at. Highland Avenue is a collector, and it's a collector of cars bringing all the way up people from Spring Lake coming in, driving up, dropping their kids off at Loyola's. 8,000 cars a day, north and south of Kings Highway. This is not Mayberry RFD with some little two-car traffic running down here. This is a major part of town which needs investing. So here's what the zoning looks like. Right now. Does that work? This is in front of Centenary College. This is C2 all the way down. And that's Woodlawn. And here is all the way down to Uri Drive. You see all this C2. Then coming back north, this is all the C2. This is the spot we're talking about. It faces Kings Highway. C2. The restaurant, which is now closed, the gas station, and Walgreens. This is not spot zoning, period. End of the story. It's part of the deal that should be going on. Here's the other thing. We got a UDC code. And Director Sweeney told the board this. C2 is a watered-down version of B2. In B2, right here, you can read it. You could have an automotive filling station that pumps gas. In the C2, you have to have a special use. Then you have to talk about hours of operations. And then you have to have a site plan to make sure it's compliant and fills in the neighborhood. But we're not talking about that today. We're talking about C2 zoning. Most of these other streets, and I don't want to bore your time, Uri Drive, there's an overlay district. Line Avenue, there's an overlay district. It's just a proper zoning. The MPC did what they're supposed to do, take the feelings out of it, and made a business decision. And I appreciate your time.
Thank you, sir.
Speaking on the same zoning matter, and state your name and address for the record, and we have 2 minutes.
Okay, can this be turned on for me in the meantime?
It's already.
Okay, so. Hi, my name is Pam Todd, and I live at 503 Atkins Avenue here in Shreveport. I have this that I would love to leave with you guys. It's actually set up of the way the neighborhood is, but just to simplify everything, I'm just going, if you bring this here, Brookshire's, Wendy's, we're talking about Don's, the parking lot. I'm going to refer to that as the closed gas station, the duplex, the palm tree house, my house, the neighbor's house, and the elderly couple's house. Okay? This property does not lie on Kings Highway. This property address is Highland Avenue. Highland Avenue is a neighborhood. Kings Highway is a commercial area. If you, Don Seafood, this is from my front porch looking at Don Seafood. This is the proposed parking lot that we're talking about, which is presently zoned C1. When you leave Don Avenue, the first thing you will see right here is a duplex. I want you to know, I took this picture from my car from the driveway from the parking lot of Don's to that driveway is 31 feet. 31 feet. Here's the other side of the duplex. From the driveway to the duplex to the dumpster would be 67 feet. From the front door to the dumpster, 97 feet. If you look, this is heading, I assume, east down Atkins. This is a neighborhood. There are no commercial properties here. This is looking down Highlands from the entryway of Don's parking lot. That leads all the way to First Baptist Church. Not commercial property, nothing but homes down there, and very nice houses, may I add. Looking west towards Byrd High School, you see no commercial property. You see homes. So for him to confuse us and tell us that we are talking about commercial district, commercial corridor, this is a residential area that this parking lot happens to sit on. Now, this is the house to the palm tree. This is where the dumpster, looking from the dumpster to the house to the palm tree. This is my home. This is where I am personally vested in. This is my entry. I went out and measured from my stairwell to this said dumpster, and I am sitting at 68 feet. A basketball court for college basketball court is 94 feet. It's less than a basketball court to the dumpster. You go 40 feet up to my front porch, to my front door, where my husband sits and watches our kids when she does gymnastics and plays volleyball in the front yard. Here's my neighbor Patricia and Ian's house. Their house is closer to Don's than mine is. If my front porch is 128 feet to my front door to the dumpster, I'm sure theirs is even closer. This is the worst thing of all. This is Mrs. Thurman who spoke. I went and measured from her door to that wall 40 feet. A lot of you, dads, husbands, I just want to ask you one thing. Would you want your wives living 40 feet from a liquor store? Mothers, if you have children, would you want your teenage daughter living 40 feet from a liquor store, 30 feet from a dumpster, or your 6-year-old daughter playing from that? Just please go out and take a look, and I would love to leave all my pictures for you to have so you can see what we're really dealing with. It's a residential area.
Thank you. John Atkins. State your name and address for the record, please. You have 3 minutes.
My name is John B. Atkins III. I live at 235 Kings Highway, Shreveport, Louisiana, 71104. I'm a Shreveport City resident. I own, I'm going to list them for you because 225 Kings Highway, 231 Kings Highway, 225 Kings Highway, 231 Kings Highway, 235 Kings Highway, 245 Kings Highway, 249 Kings Highway, 257 Kings Highway, 303 Kings Highway, 321 Atkins, 325 Atkins, 3113 Centenary Boulevard, 3121 Centenary Boulevard, 3135 Centenary Boulevard, and 126 Centenary Circle, which are in the general area of Don's. Represents over $3 million investment that I've made, and I'm continuing to invest in. I also have about 20 other properties in the area, and I'm not done yet. I'm appealing this, which I know is not appeal, but it's more of a conversation. This liquor store for the following reasons. This rezoning should remain C1 because a similar property, Thrifty Liquor on Uri and Broadmoor, is on a main thoroughfare. It's as the C2 zoning is currently where the Don's building is. Nowhere where the C2 zoning is does it go all the way back to the residential street. There's always a buffer of a house, houses on the residential street. Yes, there's beer sold at Brookshire's across the street, but there's no wine because of its proximity to Crestwell Elementary. And I didn't put a tape on it, but I can guarantee you that it's probably not 600 feet from Crestwell, where this proposed location is. This building's been vacant for 8 years, and the MPC believes it should be voted on to be C2, so it's put back into commerce. I tell y'all that y'all well know that there's buildings downtown that have been vacant for 40 years, and they're just now being put back into commerce and to find their right use. Nextly, the MPC did not listen to the neighbors or care about the concerns on this property. They did not ask us how many signatures were on the petition that we provided. There are already 3 gas stations and a convenience store in the general area, 3 of which are owned and operated by Shreveport taxpaying citizens, one of which has since closed since the MPC decision. A gas station of this magnitude will hurt them and more likely cause more urban blight if these stations close. This is not proper urban planning or planning at all. It is haphazard and shows no thought at all. It has been said that Kings Highway is no longer a residential street. I beg to differ. I have 21 individual units where people live on Kings Highway. This represents approximately half of the residents that live in the 200 block and 300 block of the Kings Highway area. So there's still a residential presence. There still is a Mayberry per se, and I'm trying to make it that way and bring it back. This building is not sold because the owners have not maintained it. It is overpriced, and the work they have done to this building is shoddy at best. I respectfully ask you to do what you can do to overturn this decision by the MPC. Do you have any questions?
Well, can I just say, just as the council person for the district, real quick, I just want to thank everybody for reaching out. I have gotten a good bit of information. I do want to apologize that I haven't been able to respond to all of it. My father has been in the hospital since last Wednesday morning in ICU, so I've been a little scattered. But I wanted to stay here in order to hear from all of you. Your thoughts aren't going unheard or unconsidered. I just haven't had a chance to respond yet. But I do appreciate everybody speaking. And certainly I want to be clear about what the process is so that we know as we discuss this, we're focusing on the salient points of which decisions are made when. Obviously, and I know that y'all are probably aware of this, but just for the benefit of the public and people who may be listening to this but may not be here, because of the Unified Development Code, this is a two-step process in this decision making. The first is this rezoning. There is a portion of the lot that is B2 that is close to Kings Highway, and then the B1, which is a buffer that currently exists between the B2 and the neighborhood, is the parking area in the back. And so that's where the lot is it's got a B2 at the front, B1 and they used to be called B1 and B2. Now they're called C1 and C2 in the Unified Development Code. So that being said, in order for this development as proposed to move forward, there would have to be a zoning change. There would also have to be several special use approvals that are considered. So the special use approvals would be that even in a C2, even if the whole thing was already zoned C2, you would still have to have a special approval for the liquor store and for the gas pumps, because those are separate special approvals that are required. So there are multiple levels, and I just want to make sure that we're focusing on that the council members and all of us are familiar with which decision we're being made. This one will be before us for a September 12th, if I'm correct, is the rezoning. And there has not been an application made yet for the special use approvals. So that would be an application that would go to the MPC, and then it could be appealed to us. It doesn't automatically come to us. This is a decision that the MPC made. Now the MPC decided to grant the rezoning, which is what the members of the nearby neighborhood are not happy with, or they don't agree with that decision by and large from what has been presented to us today. However, just as a refresher to everybody, this type of decision automatically comes to the council now. It's not like they've appealed it. It automatically comes to us, but they're here in the same capacity as somebody who would be appealing it with the back. So just to make that clear for everybody. And I thank you, and I would appreciate if y'all have petitions or things like that y'all submitted in the previous discussions. Any information really would be helpful, so that I can be as educated as I need to be by the time we have to make a vote.
All right. Thank you.
How many names you have on the petition?
I didn't generate the petition. Ms. Pernisi, who owned the gas station, which is since closed, generated it, so I'd have to talk to her.
And I've had several emails, and I don't know if, just because it is very close to my district and it is in Jeff's district, that most of us have probably gotten the majority of the emails. But I wouldn't say you need to isolate those emails just to the two of us.
Okay.
So, Mr. Vice Chairman, if I could just clarify on the petition, Ms. Pernisi left it with the MPC, so it was entered into the record. So Mr. Sweeney's office would have that document with all those names.
It's probably included in their packet, and that's probably is on the online packets.
Yes.
Thank you, Councilwoman Lane.
Okay.
So
I just wanted to make that clear. But they did not ask to see it before they voted, did not ask for a total or anything.
Well, they have made it available to us, so that's good.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for pointing.
I had one more person to speak on this issue, and then Councilman Bradford
Had a question for the MPC director.
You want to hear from the guy first?
Yes.
Ian
Karen? I believe it's in coming.
Oh, Mr. Carter. I'm going to let him speak first, please.
Okay, sure.
You can state your name and address for the record, please, and bring it.
My name is Ian Cairns. My wife Patricia and I live on 507 Atkins Avenue. I wasn't going to speak today, but after that speech from Ms. Thurman, I can't just sit there and not say anything. We moved to the neighborhood 17 years ago. It's our home. We put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into that old house. We love it dearly. And when the current owner purchased the building, he came and visited with all the neighbors. He told us what he wanted to do with the building. He wanted to do Dave and Buster's type business, and we all said that would be great for the neighborhood. We didn't oppose it. We were all for it. And now that, for whatever reason, he was unable to fulfill his dream, I don't think that's reason to rezone. You know, he took the building under the circumstances it was in, under the current zoning, and because he failed, the MPC rezoned that lot, and to me that's just wrong. I think the market should dictate what happens to the building. It's probably overpriced, and for the MPC to rezone it so the current owner gets out whole just doesn't seem right to me. I don't think they have Shreveport's best interests in mind, and I don't think they have Shreveport citizens' best interests in mind. So that's all I have to say, folks. Thank you for your time. Any questions? Thank you.
To the members in the audience, I want you to know that Councilman Everson had to leave. His father's having surgery. He didn't want you to think that he just got up and left, but they had just called, and I think he's just going into surgery, so he left to be with his
Thank you.
family.
We appreciate that.
I want you all to know that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Councilman Bradford?
Yes, Mr. Sweeney.
You're next.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Mr. Sweeney, these residents came forward and they made a pretty good case. What criteria did you use to suggest this rezoning?
Well, of course, it was analyzed from the perspective of what was occurring along Kings Highway and as well as Atkins. What the property being split zone between C1 and C2, it made sense to the MPC board that it should be all C2 rather than a split zoning. And again, you got to bear in mind the fact that recommending this approval to C2 zoning does not automatically allow them to put in the liquor store or the gas pumps. Like Jeff said, there's a whole nother application process for that. So based on the merits of what that area has been zoned and developed over the years, that was the decision that came from the MPC board, a unanimous decision to recommend its rezoning to C2.
So in regards to the streets, Kings Highway versus Atkins versus Highland, that wasn't a factor?
They looked at that and felt like that factor did not change the dynamics of cleaning up this lot as being one zoning as opposed to two split zonings. So it made more sense to keep it as one zoning classification, which was complementary to what was across the way and what had been developed along that corridor.
Well, I think, again, more information will be coming forward.
Sure.
And I think we'll be more intelligent and enlightened on how this will be resolved, because, again, I think the residents have a right to say what they want in their neighborhood and what they what they really feel like that will maintain the standard of the neighborhood as well as the interests of those residents that have been ported in. So I appreciate your response. It
Sure.
makes sense, but at the same time, because there are multiple factions of applications that need to be made, it'll give us opportunity to at least
Right.
try to make it right.
Right. I mean, case in point, if you all did, it's later on in your second meeting, actually voted to approve the C2 zoning, that's not an automatic approval of the liquor store or the gas pump.
Right, I
So
understand.
you could say yes to one and no to the other, or yes to both. It just depends on where you want to go with
But
that.
your motive at this stage was to create continuity within the
Yes, sir.
neighborhood.
Yes, sir. It made sense, and because you realize that that parking lot, even zoned as C1, could still be developed with a commercial building on it even today without even having to go through rezoning. So it's just a parking lot right now on that backside.
Councilman Corbin.
Yeah, sure, I'm finished.
Ms. Sweeney, on this particular case, in looking at the documents that we have attached to the legislation, sometimes it's hard to read all those maps.
Sure.
Does the owner intend to raise the existing building and then build all new construction there?
Yes, sir. And actually, in your packet is a conceptual plan that's not the approved site plan, but it's a conceptual plan with conceptual elevations. And the plan is for a pitched roof building with a pitched roof awning over the pumps area to make it more compatible with a residential neighborhood.
Okay. If possible, over the next couple of weeks, if we could get a simple drawing that shows where all the existing or proposed driveways would be off which streets, because it's a little iffy looking at this. I think that may be helpful to all of us to know where traffic flow would be. And I did read that the owner would be required to keep the current retaining wall in place. Are there additional landscape requirements that would have to happen between that retaining wall and the building or edge of the parking lot?
And that is the beauty of the special use permit. So understand, what you're seeing today is just the rezoning. That's all you'll be voting on in 2 weeks. It's just the rezoning. There's no definitive plan connected to it. It's just making the property one zoning. The second phase, which would be the special use permit, is when a detailed site plan would be submitted by the applicant. And in that process, the MPC board has the right, through the special use permit, to add on stipulations to improve its compatibility with the neighborhood. So to answer your question, if they said let's add additional landscaping or let's limit the access to this street versus that street, the MPC would be in its full rights to add on those stipulations to the project.
And my next question is about the Golf Ridge Drive.
Oh, yes.
I'm looking at an aerial photo, and there does appear to be 2 residential driveways off of Golf Ridge Drive.
Mm-hmm.
On the architectural drawings attached to our packet, I don't see those residential driveways, and I'd like to see, in the next few days, a drawing of where the proposed bank's driveway would be on Golf Ridge Drive in relation to the existing residential driveways. And was there any discussion about a single entrance on Ellerby Road and not having an entrance on the Golf Ridge Drive? And you can email all that back to me.
Yeah, and that was discussed. And again, you won't see that kind of detail until the applicant submits an actual application for the special use permit. That case is exactly the same as the one that's on Atkins. You're only being asked to rezone the property. There's no detailed site plans. There's no structures laid out yet. There's a conceptual idea of what they're going to do. But the whole issue of access to Golf Ridge Drive would be worked out as part of the special use permit application.
So if we were to approve the zoning,
Mhm.
and let's just pick on the Golf Ridge Drive
Yes.
project, we approve that zoning, and an acceptable site plan can't be agreed upon, and the bank project disappears.
Yes, sir.
Then does it revert back to the previous zoning, or have we then permanently zoned it?
You have permanently zoned it, and it would stay in place, but it means a bank with a drive-through could not go in there, but a bank without a drive-through could go in there. That's the special use is for just the drive-through component. That's all. So that anything, and you got to remember across the street is the C2 PUD zoning of Camp Forbing. So
I'm just trying to decide, have we created a situation that could come back and bite us sometimes?
remember the difference between C1 and C2 is not very significant. There's a few uses in C2 that you don't have in C1, but for the most part they're very, very similar. There's other properties along Ellerby that are of C2, same type zoning, but in the parish that was recently zoned not too long ago, just right down the street. So the market trend along in there is for at least a C2 level of zoning, more than likely. So that's kind of where the trend is, and even if you did rezone it to C2, it just means that it would be limited to the uses that are within C2.
But I do think it would be very helpful to know where that conceptual driveway is now versus, in relation
Right.
to the residential driveways. And then there may be some negotiation that could take place
Absolutely.
when you get to the actual site plan.
That's right. That's right.
Thank you.
Councilman Jenkins.
Okay, but Mike brought up a good point. Now, the gentleman who was quasi-appealing on the Gulf Ridge, he wasn't appealing to the use, was he? He was appealing to the drive-through, right?
He is the access to Gulf Ridge Drive. He is
So, I
hoping
mean,
that right.
So really, he wasn't appealing to what is in front of us today on that.
No, the zoning doesn't affect that at all.
Okay, so in reality, his, even though it's not an appeal, his objection to that one really was a little he needs
That's
to
right.
really wait for.
He
the
needs to
special-
wait for the next stage, which is the
Okay.
special use permit.
Now, very different in the Atkins deal, and I think that's very clear to me. They are clearly objecting to C2 because, if they had their way, they would look for less zoning or a more stringent zoning rather
Right.
than a less stringent. Okay. And then how high is that retaining fence? Do you know?
I'm thinking it's 6 feet, but I'm not for certain of that. That would be something we'd nail down in the site plan review component of the special use permit.
And
Excuse me, I need to call a point of order, because which case are we discussing?
We're going back and forth.
We're going back and forth.
Okay, well, point of order. We're on this case. If y'all got some questions about a different case, because it's really confusing, and this is the case that we're on, so.
Yeah, and that's what I'm indeed talking about. This one.
Okay.
I mean, the Atkins one. I'm assuming that's the one we're all here talking about. Yes.
I understand, but I'm just trying to be clear on which case. I don't want
Okay.
anybody out there confused, and I want
Okay.
to stay clear on what's before us and what the comments are related to.
On the houses, and you may not know, but the retaining walls between the residential properties and the Family Dollar or whatever, are those, do you imagine the same 6 feet height?
Again, I'd have to go back and verify the height of it. I don't want to say that it definitely is, but most fences and walls that are built in the city are either 6 to 8 feet in height. That's usually by code, by ordinance. It can't really go over 8 feet. But I don't think it's 8 feet. So
Gotcha. But I'm assuming that's part of the site plan on.
yes, that would be highlighted very much so, because even in early conversations with this applicant, we kind of informed them that's something that's probably going to have to stay, if not be enhanced even further, if this is approved. Right.
Some type of
Right.
vegetation or whatever.
Yes. Yes. I agree.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
All right. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, before we move to the next agenda item, is there Mr. Diaper here regarding case number C-7417? Oh, you're here? Okay. Did you fill out an application, so to speak?
Yes.
Okay.
I hadn't turned this in yet.
All right. Yeah, you told me he was coming. I just didn't want to move forward.
I should have Mr. Weiner up here.
Oh, Mr. Weiner, I'm sorry.
Weiner.
Mr. Weiner's here.
One person in front of
One more, okay.
Yeah, okay. So you're legal. Okay, we get the application. I mean, the request.
Mr. Weiner.
Thank you. Bill Weiner,
Name and address, please. You have 3 minutes.
number 2, Longleaf Lane, 71106, registered voter here. I got an email today. It was a press release from the mayor's office about the sports complex. It was interesting, but it lacked so much information. I'm not for or against. I need information. I tried calling City Hall several different ways, could not get through the gates. I contacted the people in Kentucky that had helped put it up. They didn't have information. I called the MPC. This kind of stuff should go through the MPC. They didn't know anything about it. So I'm hoping that tomorrow, when it's presented, the following questions will be addressed. A statement of a program of need, why we're doing this. We need to look at the demographics of who will be using it. There'll be some sports teams, but maybe there'll be something with SPAR, which would affect where it should be located. The bus routes should affect where it's going to be located. Traffic flow. There's no site plan. There's no program. There's no way to analyze whether it's good or bad or could be better. So here's some of the questions that I think need to be addressed tomorrow. Why wasn't the MPC involved at the beginning? That's what they're there for. They're looking at long-range solutions based on facts, not political solutions based on now. No traffic analysis. Who will actually own the building? This becomes important because who will maintain the building? Where will the funds for maintaining the building come from? How is that going to be funded? If it's going to be revenue bonds, what happens if the source of revenue stops? Like the team gets kicked out of the league or it's not there, the revenue won't be there to support the revenue bonds. What's going to happen? Who's going to pick up the slack or what? Will it become an obligation of the city? And I really want some of these answers addressed tomorrow so that the public will know what's going on and they can make their own informed decisions and have input and to have a better solution. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Paul Draper. Please state your name, address, and you have 3 minutes, please.
Okay, thank you. My name is Paul Draper. I'm a commercial realtor with Walker Alley and Associates in Shreveport, and our office is at 315 Fannin. This morning I was speaking with Mr. Bradford. I've been waiting a long time, got a lump in my throat. Anyway, he suggested I come to the work session today since I have a conflict tomorrow and will be unable to attend. This is case number C-7417. There's 134 acres up by the Caddo Parish Detention Center. It's located between Corporate Drive and 12 Mile Bayou. It has been zoned I-2 for a number of years, and the MPC during the UDC zoning changed it to a natural area, or NA, and the property owner was unaware of this rezoning. It's been I-2 for a number of years with an asking price of $1,750,000, and it has also been discussed with the Parish Commission and city officials and other prospects. The city and the parish had both agreed that this property has merits for commercial and industrial use, but the city did not have the funds to pursue the project, and the parish had other economic development projects in the works. Earlier this year, or maybe late last year, I don't remember exactly, we contacted the Northwest Louisiana Economic Partnership for assistance with this project, and they in turn contacted the Louisiana Department of Economic Development, and in order to maybe get this site as a certified certified LED site. LED has completed their preliminary review of the site, and they and ready to move on to a complete study. However, in April, a contract engineer with LED discovered through some work she was doing at City Hall that the property had been rezoned from I-2 to a natural area. At that point, LED suspended their study, and we've been now in a holding pattern for 5 months. The NA zoning does not benefit the property owner nor the citizens of Shreveport. The owner feels that the property was taken without just compensation. The elected officials in the parish and city for a number of years have wanted more jobs in North Shreveport, and this site has the potential as a commercial site to fill that need. The MPC had the MPC contacted the owner or myself as a realtor and learned more about this project, then I think the rezoning would not have occurred. There was absolutely no due diligence done in the rezoning. The only reasons provided to us was that there may be a negative impact on 12 Mile Bayou. Later investigation revealed with the zoning board and also the levy board that there would be no impact in this area. Anyway, the Caddo Parish Sheriff has the detention center there and a work release program for years, and there's been no negative impact. So the MPC has recommended that the rezoning be reverted back to I-2, and we request your support in that endeavor. I can answer any questions if anybody has any.
No.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Councilman Jenkins.
Just the one. So, in summary, it used to be I-2. They erroneously put out a new map with it in A, and this is just a formal way to recognize it back to its previous state?
Yes.
Got it.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact,
I'm assuming
there.
that the city, from a legal standpoint, thinks this is an appropriate action, right?
That's right. Okay.
Good to go. Thank you.
Yeah. I don't have any, you may have some other cases the same way. We may be just the first one. There may be something that should be considered, that whereas the MPC has the authority to revert back to the zoning.
They did. They put it in their last action, I believe, that they would revert back as X number of days with no charge.
Okay.
But the thing about it is, if nobody knows that it's been changed, we haven't accomplished it. But we'll see.
Good. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, sir. We have no executive appointments to be considered tomorrow. There are no items under consent agenda for introduction. Mr. Crawford, let us continue to items to be adopted, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Under consent agenda legislation items to be adopted, ordinances and resolution. Resolution 141 authorizes the purchasing agent to reject all bids received from IFB 17065 2017 Shreve Memorial Library juvenile books. Resolution 142, congratulating Reverend Brian Wilson, the new pastor for Galilee Baptist Church, to thank Galilee for many successful programs and ventures that have improved the lives of citizens of Shreveport, and wish Reverend Wilson and the officers and members of Galilee Baptist Church continued success in further endeavors. Resolution 143 recognizes Bishop Fred A. Caldwell, Sr. for preaching the gospel of the grace of God for 40 years. And then Resolution 148, suspending provisions of Chapter 10 and any applicable provisions of the Shreveport Unified Development Code of the Shreveport Code of Ordinances relative to the sale, dispensing, and consumption of alcoholic beverages on September 29, 2017 between the hours of approximately 5 p.m. and 9 p.m. in the 400 block of Lake Street for the 4th Annual Circus du Lake event. Not familiar with that.
I'm not either. Any discussion, any questions? Okay.
Just one quick one. So just because we're the purchasing agent for the library, it is.
Yeah, we have to.
There's got to be a better system than that deal. Okay. Obviously, that's
Mr. Crawford, please.
Yes, sir. Regular agenda legislation resolutions on second reading and final passage, or which will require only one reading. Resolution 134 authorizes the mayor to execute an acceptance of an active donation between the City of Shreveport and Lakeside RMA LLC for the private water and sewer improvements for Lakeside on Long Lake Unit Number 6, water and sewer and related facilities. Resolution 135 authorizing the mayor to execute an acceptance of the act of donation between the City of Shreveport and S&J Development of Shreveport for the private water and sewer improvements of Oakwood Trace water and sewer systems and related facilities. Resolution 136 authorizing the mayor to execute a surface use and road right-of-way agreement associated with building one pad to drill up to 5 gas wells and the use of existing roads at the City of Shreveport's sludge fields located along Harts Island Road. Resolution 137 authorizes the use of certain city-owned equipment by the Junior League of Shreveport Bossier. Resolution 138 authorizes the execution of a cooperative endeavor agreement between the Shreveport Bossier Sports Commission and the City of Shreveport. I think that's for the 2017 Powerboat National Grand Prix. 139 authorizes the execution of a cooperative endeavor agreement between American Idol Productions, Inc. and the City of Shreveport. That's for their American Idol bus tour. Auditions will be at Riverfront Park September 4th, 2017. So any of y'all that are interested in auditioning for American Idol, here's your chance. Resolution 140 authorizes the execution of a cooperative endeavor agreement with GETA, Inc. This is for the C.C. Antoine's 181st birthday celebration. Resolution 144 encouraging our U.S. Congressional delegation, Governor Edwards, and Major General Glenn Curtis, Adjunct General for the Louisiana National Guard, to support funding for Phase 2, Phase 3, and Phase 4 of the Regional Training Institute, RTI, on Camp Minden. And Resolution 149 authorizes the mayor to execute the proposal for Municode to the City of Shreveport for the codification of the Shreveport Unified Development Code.
Okay, any questions? Councilman Ford?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let me go back to it. On Resolution 136, I know there were a few citizen concerns that have been raised about the possibility of a saltwater storage well there, and I'm just curious if we had addressed any impact that that may have on groundwater.
136. We have not. There are other wells that are already on the site out there, I believe, and so that's something we can certainly look into. They do have the surface mineral rights for that property out there, and so, but I'll address that with them and see if I can get an answer to you.
Okay, thanks.
Sure.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Okay, so a little bit on 136. Do you know who, did we in-house negotiate that agreement, or did we solicit outside counsel for
That
that?
was prior to this administration. I'm not sure. Barbara, do you know on the sludge field how long BHP Billiton has had that mineral right out there? We can. Robert,
I mean, because
Robert.
We have a gentleman here representing him.
I understand that. I'm just curious who on our side represented us on this right-of-way agreement and the pad sale.
We can look it up legislatively. We can
Or I
have it
call
to
it
you.
sale.
Have it to you before tomorrow, if it's available.
Because there are a few kind of comments I might have from an oil and gas perspective that, I do.
We'll see if we can find that original agreement.
Sure, we got
Like I said,
it.
it predates us, but I'll see if I can put my hands on it and get it to you before tomorrow's meeting.
Okay.
Any other questions? Mr. Crawford?
Just a second, Mr. Chairman.
The introduction of
Resolution 145, we're under introduction of resolutions. Resolution 145 authorizes the mayor and Shreveport Police Department to apply and execute grant applications in any and all grant documents jointly with the Cattle Parish Sheriff's Office to the U.S. Department of Justice for the Justice Assistance Grant. This is for a grant, the Edward Bren Memorial Justice Assistance Grant, where the city will receive approximately $60,000 and the Sheriff's Department will receive $54,000 to purchase equipment. Resolution 146 acknowledging that the City Council has reviewed the 2017 Internal Municipal Water Pollution Prevention Report concerning the North Regional and Lucas Wastewater Plant. This is a survey form that's required by the state from our 2016 operations. Resolution 147 employing professionals with respect to the issuance of not exceeding $30 million of revenue bond Shreveport Sports Complex project in one or more series on a tax-exempt or taxable basis on a senior and or subordinate basis for the purpose of acquiring, constructing, and equipping of a sports complex in the city, paying capitalized interest on the bonds, paying the cost of issuances related thereto, and for providing for other matters in connection therein. This is the initial preliminary step in the process. Does not obligate the council or the city to any particular funds for the sports complex.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, regarding 147, I understood you to say that there was this would not obligate any necessary financial obligation for the 30.
Correct.
But in regards to employing professionals, what would that include, and what kind of funding are we talking about to compensate these professionals?
Sure, I'm going to let Councilman or City Attorney answer that.
Whenever we have bond transactions, revenue bonds, for instance, the water and sewer bonds, or like these bonds, professionals are funded through the bond. They're part of the bond transaction, so it's funded through the proceeds of the bond. So there's not a separate account that we keep for the funding of the professionals. So essentially, and they're going to scream for me saying this, but if the bond doesn't close or issue, they don't get paid. It's strictly based on the issuance of the funds.
Correct. Okay, but my understanding was that from now until this come up for a final vote, that there would be some activity regarding investigating to see if we are indeed eligible for some of these funding sources.
That's correct.
And that will be predicated on if we vote to do it. There's no compensation in the interim.
Part of what happens when you're issuing bonds is that you do due diligence on the best mechanisms to issue that bond. If the market dictates that it's not an appealing time, then they're either deferred, they don't close. So the interest is to find the best mechanism for the city of Shreveport if it is available. I think they've done the due diligence prior to even bringing this legislation that there are funding avenues available that do not cause any increased cost to taxpayers. And so part of their job as professionals in this process is to go through those steps. And they have a fiduciary duty to advise the city in a manner of which is fair and equitable for our interests. And so just as I am required to as an attorney to place the interest of the city above any self-interest I have, so are those funding professionals throughout this process as well.
Okay.
And let me tell you one other thing that is, there is a cap limit on how much these individuals can be paid, period. It is very regulated at the state level. So, good or bad, whether this is a great proposal or not, I'm not really, but there's some certain noise out there that, with some inaccuracies out there about how this is, an opportunity for people to make money. And it's extremely well regulated.
Okay. Now in regards to the project itself, Mayor, what do you have? Do you have a plan of how this is going to be put out for public consumption so that they would understand? I mean, you said that some professionals coming tomorrow to make presentations.
Yes, sir.
And to the council.
Yes, sir.
But in the interim of the 12th meeting, is there going to be any type of public education on what's going on with this project?
Well, we've not gotten that far yet. Once they make the presentation tomorrow,
okay,
I think we'll have a lot of interest from media because we did do the press release today, as you know. And that press release does not contain details, but we'll have more details tomorrow, and I think people will watch probably online to see what's going on. But certainly, I think it is wise if we can do some additional kinds of education on this, and probably we will. I've not had a chance to talk with the team as much yet because we're still competing against one other city. There are only 2 of us left in the competition. And so I want to see how this goes, and then we will know whether or not we can go full steam ahead if we get the RFP. But we do want to educate more if there is a need for more education. Once we have the presentation tomorrow, we'll give a lot of details, and we can probably utilize those same details to do some more education about the RFP and what it means if we are awarded that RFP, what it would mean to this community, the whole community, and not just one district. Okay?
Yes, ma'am. And let me ask additionally, and I probably need to wait till I hear the presentation. I probably need to wait until I hear the presentation. Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Councilwoman Lynch. So I just had a couple of questions. One, I understand we're one of 2 left.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, how was that confirmed? I just want to make sure. Did
Phone
they send
call.
us a letter? Oh, okay.
Phone call.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Through a phone call.
And then the anticipated announcement date
For
who they're going to pick, the selection.
Well, they've not given us that date yet. There is a tentative time, and I don't think they won't say, is it December, Attorney Bradford? I'm not December, September.
September, yes, ma'am. Yeah.
September, we were told that they are trying to meet a deadline in September for announcing who would actually have this opportunity in their city. But they've not given us just a date itself, but sometimes in September, Councilwoman. Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Quick question, on 145, if we go back to it, that's just for equipment only, right?
According to the grant that was provided by the chief, that was for equipment purchases. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I see no one else for questions, Mr. Crawford.
Yes, sir. Introduction of ordinances not to be adopted prior to September 12th, 2017. Ordinance 83 designates Winston Street and Geary Street as one-way streets from Texas Avenue to Murphy Street, thereby requiring vehicles to only travel in a westbound to northbound direction ending at Murphy Street. This is in conjunction with the new intermodal facility. Because of the width of that street, some of the challenges we'll have coming in on the bus, the entrance only will be on the Texas side and then exiting to the Murphy Street side. Ordinance 84 authorizes the purchasing agent to advertise for and solicit sealed bids to sell to the highest responsive bidder surplus city-owned movable property, i.e. real property, and all improvements therein located at 400 Crockett Street, Shreveport, Louisiana, 71101, commonly referred to as the Shreveport Downtown Bus Terminal. Minimum bids for this application will be $1,020,000. Ordinance 58 amends the 2017 general fund budget. This is to move $150,000 from the Department of Engineering and Environmental Services personal services accounts to contractual services to continue the aggressive fight for the giant Salvinia out on Cross Lake. Ordinance 86 amends the 2017 general fund budget appropriating the funds authorized herein. This is for $40,000 to be moved in the city attorney's account from personal services to contractual services due to increased funding required from the attorney representing the city for the Shreveport Fire and Police Civil Service Boards. Ordinance 87 amends Chapter 74, Article 2, Section 7431 of the Shreveport Code of Ordinances, ordinances relative to recycling. If you recall, the city was notified earlier this year from Pratt Industries that they would no longer provide recycling after October the 8th, 2017, the expiration of the current contract. The ordinance that you have in front of you is to continue those recycling services for the exact same dollar amount of $2.50 per month, but with only a semi-monthly pickup or every other week. This was provided by through an RFP by the selected vendor by the committee. Republic was selected by that committee, including a number of council members that were on that committee. They're our current recycle provider, and two of the submissions that they had were what could you provide at the current dollar amount, and that was to provide every other week service. That's what the administration has brought forward in the ordinance. But they also provided an alternative in amendment number 1 that said what could you do to provide the continuation of the existing 1-week pickup. They provided that in amendment 1. That would be an increased cost of $4.80 for the council to consider. And so on this particular amendment, there are 3 opportunities to consider for recycling eventually. If the ordinance is adopted as is, we would continue recycling without an increase in fees with an every other week pickup. If the amendment 1 was considered, the city would have to raise fees to $4.80 a month, and 1-week pickup would continue. If the council did not adopt this ordinance, then recycling would go away on October the 8th. Ordinance number 88 authorizes the mayor to execute a lease of city-owned property located in Caddo Parish at East Stoner Avenue at River Parkway Boulevard, Shreveport, Louisiana, 71101, commonly referred to as Veterans Park, to EcoSite LLC for placement of a stealth flagpole cell tower for the purposes which benefit the public. This is a flagpole on that site, which will actually have a flag flying from it. You won't be able to tell it's a cell site. The city will receive $21,000 in annual rent for allowing that to be constructed. The next 3 ordinances are zoning. Ordinance number 89 is zoning case 7217. Pull it up. An ordinance to amend the official zoning map for the City of Shreveport Unified Development Code by rezoning property located on the northeast corner of Ellerby Road and Gulf Ridge Drive, Shreveport, Caddo Parish, Louisiana, from RE Residential Estate District to C2 Corridor Commercial District. Ordinance number 90 is zoning case C-73-17, an ordinance to amend the official zoning map of the City of Shreveport Unified Development Code by rezoning property located on the northwest corner of Highland Avenue and Atkins Street, Shreveport, Caddo Parish, LA, from C1 Neighborhood Commercial District to C2 Corridor Commercial District. And Ordinance 91 is zoning case number C-74-17, an ordinance to amend the official zoning map of the City of Shreveport Unified Development Code by rezoning property located east of 12 Mile Bayou, bounded by Nelson Street and Forum Drive, Shreveport, Caddo Parish, Louisiana, from NA Natural Areas District to I2 Heavy Industrial District.
Yes, on the recycling.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I understand that for the $2.50, that's a 1 day a week pickup.
The $2.50 that's proposed in the ordinance, when the city proposed the RFP, we asked for some specific things. One, what level of service could you provide with the current level of funding? Current level of funding being $2.50 a month per household generates about $1.9 million annually. The awarded bidder came back with, we can continue to do that at $2.50, but we can only pick up every other week. So they would continue to pick up recycling at the same schedule as solid waste pickup would be picked up, but for that amount, they could only do it every other week. The second thing we asked was, what would it cost?
Don't
Go ahead.
confuse me. Okay, so that's really what I wanted to see.
Correct.
So we're paying. Well, the citizens are paying the same amount for less service
That's correct.
than what they're currently getting.
But remember this, the city didn't choose this. Pratt Industry notified the city earlier this year that they would no longer provide recycling.
Right.
City went out for an RFP. The committee selected the best proposal and from the provider that's currently doing the service, and that's Republic. And this is what they came back and presented to the city.
And if I could just kind of piggyback on what he's saying, if you will check around the country, nobody else can do it once a week for $2.50 a month. The other thing is, Pratt offered to keep the contract as is, but they would raise the rate beginning in October every month for the next 9 years. I mean, every year per month for the next 9 years. So they did not even bid on the RFP. And so we were trying to make sure that we had some options for our citizens who wanted to continue recycling. This one will allow everybody who wants to recycle, everybody to continue recycling every other week. And if there was people who needed to have more cans, we would, what do they call, bins?
Yes,
we
ma'am.
would provide an extra bin, for those who are avid in their recycling efforts. But this is the one that we chose is probably the best of the best, because we cannot get recycling anywhere in the country for $2.50 per month for every week.
Okay, so the current contract with Pratt, was that coming to an end?
It's coming to an end on October the 8th,
Yes,
2017. It was a 10-year contract executed in 2007 on the
Right.
same date.
Right, okay, gotcha. Okay, so for $1.9 million, and I know it's we're a little bit past this now, would it have been cheaper for us to set up our own?
No, it would have been
Recycle?
more expensive to set up our own.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was something that we talked about as well. The mayor had us explore that option as well.
Because what was that Shreveport Green had at one time? I think off St. Vincent. Was that
Like a recycling
Yeah,
center?
It was a center, and everybody had to
Brought your
bring
own.
your stuff
bring
there?
your own stuff to that center.
Okay, all righty. So, and how long is this contract for?
It's been 10 years as well.
No,
10 years.
Okay, gotcha. All righty, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to clarify that pursuant to their response, they anticipate collecting the same volume, just the frequency of collection changes.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Councilman Jenkins?
Did you call me Congresswoman?
I called you.
Congresswoman Williams? What did you call me? What did you say? We can't say it in front of
Councilman Jenkins?
The proposal from Pratt, though, if I remember correctly, it escalated, what, to 350 originally, and then gradually ended at year 10 at like 550 maybe? Is that about what
I don't have it right
I
in front
don't
of me.
have it in front of me, but I can tell you every year, per month, it goes up.
Yes, but I might argue, though, that truly, if you looked at it at a discounted cost basis, we'd be better served with that proposal than the current one.
But remember this, Councilman, we invited Pratt to bid on that exact proposal that they had submitted, and they did not.
They didn't. I understand.
Their conversation was they wanted out of the recycling business.
I got you. And on the Pratt, on the Allied Waste agreement, or on this RFP or this proposal, is the part that they are going to take it to Pratt still that commitment there? Because when we had the discussion last, there was some discussion on whether that would be fulfilled.
That's the only recycling center in the region that can take that type of deposit, and not being cost prohibitive, having to drive to East Texas and so on. That relationship will strictly be between Republic and Pratt, and the city will have no relationship in that agreement.
Because there is just one concern that I have is I want to make sure that the material that they're collecting ends up, and I'm not saying Pratt in bad faith or Allied is suggesting that, but I want to make sure that if we do this, that the actual recycled material ends up at Pratt and not back in our landfill in a different.
I understand your concern.
And so that somehow that's going to be in our agreement.
Well, ultimately, when the contract will have to come back before the council for approval, you'll see that. Or does
not the contract, but
Councilman Bradford?
It's already in the ordinance.
Okay, it's in the ordinance already. Okay, that's right.
Okay.
Well,
make sure
Mayor,
it's-
would
we
you
make sure it's in
speak
there.
to the relationship with the water?
I
Have we
can't.
negotiated that rainwater?
I need to ask the attorney. We have not negotiated
Okay, well,
a
I'll
new
withdraw. I
contract with
withdraw.
Pratt yet, but that is coming.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I was concerned, but you lessened some of my concern when you said that the avid recyclers will be given an extra can if need be.
If they ask for it, yes, sir.
It need be.
Okay.
One of the things that we talked about with Republic, who are national experts on this, they collect recycling as well as solid waste in other areas of the country, is most of the recycling bins are more than 50% full of air because people put cereal boxes and what have you, and there's not a lot of compression. And after they told me that, I even looked at my own recycling bin, and I can easily, I'm an avid recycler. We have 2 separate cans in the house, and the kids even know how to do it. But if I push just down and get some of that air, I can get 2 weeks of recycling in my can. But if somebody tries to do that and they're still overflowing, then we'll try to accommodate them as well.
And that's good. I'm two person household, and I don't put my can out every week, every other week.
Sure.
So that would accommodate me well. But I did not want to compel the residents to accept this if on the fact that they was going to be getting less service for the same fee, and I didn't think that would be right. But the option is still from your RSVP and coming back. Pratt was the only and reasonable decision.
Republic. We had.
Republic. Pratt is out of the picture.
They are. Right.
So whatever relationship that we have with Pratt, with any type of amenities, that's renegotiable.
It is, as that contract expires on October the 8th, that's a conversation between mayor, city attorney alluded to, and the council, if any of that contract gets renegotiated and entered into.
And but the relationship between Pratt and Republic as it relates to them being the actual recycling center, we have nothing to do with that.
No.
So
we can put a stipulation in the contract that they have to take the recycling, as Councilman Jenkins says, to a recycling center, and that way ensuring that it doesn't end up back in our landfill.
right, that Pratt just picking it up and dumping it.
And according to Republic, that's the only site that will be able to handle the volume of recycling that they're going to get from Shreveport. They have to take it to Pratt.
So if this council, and we we got an extra week, so we're going to get a lot of conversation out of this, chose not to compel the public to accept this only, recycling goes away automatically?
Yes. Because the contract would expire on October the 8th, 2017 without a further agreement with a recycling company.
Okay.
So Pratt's obligation ends if we don't put something in that place, and Pratt stops.
So just as let's say those that don't want it to go away, we can't do a recycling center?
I'm not saying we can't do a recycling center. I think the options that we listed for the public was to try and have a minimal impact and something closely associated with what they're used to having now, and that is at least having it picked up from their house, whether it's once a week or whether it's twice a week, and then having to take it to a recycling center. We thought we would lose a lot of value. Not that they're not good places, but I think it would be a big change for those who are, like you said, who are adamant about recycling. I think they would rather have once every other week pickup rather than having to put it in a vehicle and then taking it to a center. But
And option two is another $1.50.
the amendment would move it from $2.50 to $4.80.
$4.80.
Right, which is what they gave us in a proposal. Let me make this very clear. The city doesn't see any of this money. This is what the professional company said it would cost them to do this once a week, to continue what we're doing right now.
Well, I don't think we can say a 480.
And that's why, Mayor, on the ordinance that she brought forward, it was to keep it at $2.50 and to see what services that we could provide, and that was in the every other week pickup.
And keep in mind, we'll also still be doing the back door pickup for those disabled, elderly people who could not, pull the bin to the curb. They'll still offer all of those amenities for those people. There are probably 20,000 plus people. The last piece of data that we received that really recycle, and we're trying to get more people to do it because it is needed for our environment. So we're going to be pushing to try to keep it in place, and we'll educate, and we've said to the company they need to help educate our people about recycling.
My last question is that there were several numbers floating around on the percentage of our citizens that do recycle. Do you have a definitive number on that?
I think the mayor just mentioned that the numbers, you're right, depending on who you ask, but out of the 60,000 households or so, maybe 20,000, I think is probably, that's a little bit kind of in the median, where it's, some say less than that, some say a little bit more than that, but I think that's probably closer to a medium number that we've heard.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councilman Cole? Thank you. Under Ordinance 87, the city continues to bill and collect the money and pass that through
That's correct.
The contractor. With Pratt's contract ending, then does that give us an opportunity to renegotiate their landfill
Absolutely.
rates?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Good. And I know that Councilman Fleury mentioned gray water. Councilman Jenkins and I have heard about gray water now for almost 8 years, and I'd like to get some resolution to that before we finish our second term.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
Been down that road with
And that's going to be part of our discussion of the new contract. Once they opted out of recycling in that contract, then we're able to renegotiate what we do with them.
Well, and finally, I know we've got a lot of media here today and probably will tomorrow. I really hope this gets picked up in the media so that the citizens engage with us. Right. And certainly, I know that you'll send out a very comprehensive press release as
Yes.
well.
Yes.
But I want to get those discussions out there so that we can get ample feedback. Right.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Bo?
Just on 85, Crossway, Saloon.
Yes.
What all would that encompass?
That provides extra funding for the spraying itself. I mean, paying for the chemicals, paying for the people that go out there. Is Wes here? Wes, you want to step up here? We've got our environmental specialist. Just happens to be standing in the back of the room.
And that's a lot of good. That stuff is.
I've been getting a few emails.
Right.
Just the same. So yeah.
I think what it is, we've had a particularly bad year with it this year in the lake. I mean, this is a problem we've had in the lake for probably 15 years or more, but this year has been worse than usual. And that's because we didn't have a winter. It's hard to budget for spraying because it can vary so much. You budget, of course, this time of year, and then you don't know what your winter is going to be like. You don't know what the year is going to be like. So this year it's turning out that we need more money, and it is for herbicide application to the mats of salvinia that are in the lake.
And nothing is. I mean, you can't overspray if that makes sense to contaminate the water.
No, we have our contract sprayer is a licensed herbicide applicator. They're overseen by our staff, who's also a licensed herbicide applicator, and we're comfortable with what they do. They actually don't apply it to the water; they apply it to the floating mats. So the herbicide doesn't really get into the water column, or parts of it, small portions do, but for the most part, it's applied to the salvinia that floats on it. But everything is done in accordance with EPA requirements. Everything is very safe. We make sure of that.
So when it died, no, I'm on what subject.
You gotta push your button to speak. I'm up next.
Councilwoman Ledge.
I'm looking at my I have to give them something to laugh about.
I understand.
You also invited me into the conversation.
You always get Willie in trouble. Okay, Wes, let me ask you about these bugs or roaches or whatever they were saying that would eat this
Weevils.
giant
Right.
salvania. Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
You've heard about that.
Yeah, I've heard about that. Okay, so it was weevils?
Right.
Oh, I was about to say, 'cause we got plenty of roaches around here.
Yeah, we wish.
Okay, that did work. Are you all, what's the status on that?
That's another control measure, and we do use them. These are weevils that eat salvinia. They don't eat anything but salvinia. And we've tried for years. We have, I think, probably 20 to 30 acres of the lake right now that is controlled with weevils. But it hasn't really, the problem with the weevils is they don't overwinter, so you start from scratch every year. This past year, since we didn't have much of a winter, we actually had some survival rate of the weevils, so we were able. That's why I think we've had more success with the weevils this year than we historically had. But by and large, our main control mechanism is spraying. That's really the only way we can manage it.
So let me ask you: is this money proposed to be combined with the money that the parish has put up for spraying across Lake?
This money is to supplement the existing city budget for spraying. There is no money from the parish for spraying.
You're saying there's none this year for spraying across Lake?
There never has been any from the parish.
No, there has been. I mean, I used to represent that area on the commission. So we did put up some money at one time. for spraying?
If so, I don't recall that. We would love to have some from the parish, but no, it's.
Because no, really, we did. Yeah, right. Oh, we really did appropriate some money for that for spraying. Now, that's been a few years, 5 years ago. But I mean, it's an issue because that's our water supply.
That's exactly right.
It concerns the entire, area. And so,
Absolutely, yeah.
I mean, I don't have any kin people on the commission, but if I did, I would talk to them about it.
Well, we do have.
Apparently, that if we don't ask for it, we'll never get it. That's what I was told in a meeting.
Absolutely. Okay, so that's another one of those.
I would
joints.
recommend you ask.
Yes.
In writing.
Because I was confused.
Because
I've never asked.
Right.
You don't get it if you don't ask for it. And my recollection was we did ask and we did not get it. One thing though that we do get every year is one thing that we do get every year, and we're going to get again this year, is help from the State Wildlife and Fisheries Department. They come down and they send their contract sprayer probably for a couple of weeks in the fall, and that's.
You got that right, that the state's got to come up with like $1.3 billion.
We make sure we lodge that request early, and we do. Yeah.
Alrighty. That's just something, as Councilman Jenkins said, if we don't ask, but I do know, it was either 50 or 75,000. It was pretty good lick. And so how much have we expended thus far?
Oh, I can't give you an exact number. Probably around 200,000 this year. There's 350 that we have available to spend now, and so we're asking for an additional 150.
So
we really
450 total?
A total of 500. 500? It's what we think we'll need for the rest of the year. We're comfortable that we'll make it through the year with that, and we might even have a little bit of that left over to apply to next year, hopefully.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Can I say something?
Yeah, but let me say this first. Look, Wes, when y'all get down there and put that herbicide out, I missed that, but down there in Willow Point area, Captain Bradford got a honey hole down there. I know he broke 2 lines down there on that south convenient. So y'all be sure to get that real good.
I understand. I understand.
Yeah, a couple questions. Where's the concentration of it mostly in that lake?
It's mostly on the far western end.
Far western end.
Yeah, that's where, the trees. The lake's very shallow back there, and the trees kind of lock it in. It's been I've heard it referred to as kind of a natural nursery area for it over there. So you really don't. If you're just crossing the lake, you're not going to see it.
Right.
But in the coves, Mallard Bay area, they call that Wiggins Arm and Johnson's Arm. You'll see a lot of it there. You'll actually see
parts of the lake is really what we're telling I got that very clearly. You don't need to go there.
It's true. Absolutely.
Formally make a request.
Yep.
We know it.
That is correct.
So the depth of that part is, what would you say?
Oh, it's very shallow over there. In fact, one of our issues in the past had been we can't get boats there. We have to. Our contract sprayer now has airboats that can actually get back there, 3 or 4 feet probably in some of those areas.
Okay. And that was what I was trying to get at.
Mm-hmm.
If you spray it, you just spray the leaves on top, it kills it. Is there any type of process to remove it out of the lake, or just goes to the bottom?
It just dies. It's actually about 99% water.
Oh, once
so
it died, it converts.
It,
It's not those vines or nothing.
No, it's floating. It floats. Right. And we have looked. There have been folks that have come to us to try to pitch mechanical removal systems and things like that. And we're open to anything, but we haven't seen that it's effective. We kind of take our lead on how we handle it from the State Wildlife and Fisheries Department, and they have not been convinced that mechanical removal is cost efficient or really even effective.
Now, Councilman Bowman is right. I do get a lot of inquiries regarding the Slovenia, and if I never knew, and you can tell me, without removing it, what is the hazard?
Well, it's not really a water quality concern. It's not really. I think we look at it like it really could be just a potential long-term threat to the life of the lake. It's not toxic. It's not anything like that. It's not really a water quality concern. But we just don't want it to get out of control, like you have seen on some other lakes. For instance, Lake Bistineau, Wallace Lake. We don't want Cross Lake to get that way. We're not going to let it get like
So you're
that.
trying to just keep it into a concentrated area without coming all over the place.
Right, and if we could eradicate it, we would. But it's just, and what we're hoping for is a really cold winter one of these years, like what we had back in the early 80s, and we think that might do it, but you just don't know. We at least need a winter. That would be nice if we at least had a regular winter.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr.
Okay, Mr. Crawford.
Ordinances on second reading and final passage. Numbers are assigned ordinance numbers. Ordinance 76 amends various sections of the City of Shreveport Unified Development Code, May 2017 version. Ordinance number 77 authorizes the mayor and Sport Train to execute a lease of city-owned property located at 1237 Murphy Street, Shreveport, Louisiana 71101, commonly referred to as the Shreveport Intermodal Facility to Greyhound Lines. This is their annual lease, which will be $120,000. Ordinance 78 amends the 2017 budget funding contractual services provided to Sportran by Metro Management Association. The companion to that is Ordinance 79, which amends the capital improvements budget for Sportran. This is just putting their budgets, both of them, in line with actual amounts received from their federal grants. Ordinance number 80 amends the 2017 general fund budget. This is to correct the general fund as far as the reserve and other numbers based on the 2016 audited results. Ordinance 81 amends and replaces Section 9363 of the Shreveport Municipal Code relative to parking. And Ordinance number 82 amends and replaces Chapter 102 through 127 of the Shreveport Municipal Code relative to Sportran fares. Again, this is just introducing 3 new fare options: the circulator route 7-day pass and the 12-ride paratransit pass. It does not increase any fees for Sportran bus service.
I think 82 is supposed to be postponed.
And 82 is supposed to be postponed. Thank you, Mr. Bradford. We have to have a public hearing on that, and it'll be advertised in the next council agenda.
Quick question.
Yeah.
Art maybe is the answer to this one, or Karen.
Fair.
Do you know if Jeff is okay to move forward with ordinance 76?
I do not, but I'll try to contact him.
Well, just in the event, because to be honest, I have not been as diligent on that, but I know Jeff has done a lot of work on it.
I thought he was working on some amendments, and I don't see them yet.
Okay, so all right. We may postpone that anyways, is my point. Okay.
Okay, any other questions? Mr. Thompson, is there any table which be removed?
Not that I know of, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Green, would you please come forward?
We do have one property standards appeal. He's aware.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Our case for today is 3306 Boss Avenue. Okay. Councilman Jefferson, Miss Oliver, and myself have agreed to postpone until next council meeting, whereas she will bring us her plans and her bids for the demolition of the structure. In the meantime, we will get her a bid on the cost of the asbestos abatement and the demolition also. She agrees that it does need to be demolished. She's going to see if her price will beat our price.
So moved, and actually Jeff is.
She can't cut the grass and nothing.
In the meantime?
Yeah, she couldn't do nothing to the problem.
Well, I'm sure. If you want to, we can take care of it. I'll give her a call.
Okay, so Jeff asked me to support that motion, so I'm making that motion.
I second the motion.
Any discussion? Please vote. Motion postponed, passed.
First meeting in September.
To the first meeting in September. Okay, there are no appeals, AV appeals, there's no MPC or ZBA. Mr. Thompson?
The only items on the clerk's report we've already discussed.
Okay,
The
and
appointments over there.
thank you, Mr. Thompson. Is there any reports, officer report, committee?
I'm gonna make one tomorrow from property standards.
Okay.
Public safety meeting tomorrow at 1:30.
If there's,
No, I wanted to express, and I know Mayor Holden mentioned it tomorrow.
Yes, sir.
The funeral of Mr. Tupperville.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that was a very. It was, I guess, as it relates to funerals, it was a very, very inspiring funeral. The remarks and the comments, but I just wanted to express that that it was attended by several of the council members and the mayor and her staff, and it was it was his contribution to the city, and especially to several various departments. Fire department was very valuable.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
We do have a special meeting tomorrow. I wanted to announce that. The city attorney has asked that we would go into executive session on the case.
After,
Yes,
like at 7 o'clock that night.
oh, not.
Call to this.
Any other business for the council, then we'll just.
Thank you.
This is a long agenda tomorrow.
Hopefully we'll be out pretty quick. Hopefully we'll be out of executive session before you have that long gone.
Okay.
Commission, we better sure as shit ask them, because that thing,
Councilwoman Lynch, you got a request for.
turn off that mic before I, before they
Let me say something. Here, come to back off. I'll embarrass himself.
But I don't think it went to that. I've never had it in 6 years.
Is that going to be that way?